Hi, and welcome to another podcast, Tennis Volley Talk with Brian Danielson. Hey, this today got a phone interview. Unfortunately, I almost got it figured out with the Zoom or in, but that was had some technical difficulties. Otherwise, you would have been seeing the person on who I'm going to be talking to. But anyway, he was in the pro circuit from 78 to 94, so like 16 years he played, and he went as far as number 7 in the world in singles and number 12 in doubles in 1988. So he played quite a bit, and in doubles he had a variety of different partners too. So it shows you just how good a doubles player he was too. So the won titles over the years and beat players like Borg and McEnroe and Connors, and probably what a joy of being able to play those guys back in the heyday and everything. But today I'm going to be talking to Johan Kriek. Johan, thank you for joining me on Tennis Volley Talk today.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Thank you very much for the introduction. And yeah, I played with all those motley crews back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So it was a splendid time to be a professional tennis player. And it's a far cry from what it is today in terms of the prize money. But those guys were really the ones that built the game in a big way. And I was a fan before I became a professional tennis player. So it was like pinched me because I was in high school when Connors was number 1 in the world, and I happened to play him in the first round of Wimbledon the first year I ever qualified, and I couldn't believe that I had made it that far. And so, yeah, it was a very interesting time to be on a professional tennis tour.
No, I'm sure it was. And you probably growing up probably had the pleasure of seeing him at the West Side Tennis Club or at Forest Hills. Did you?
Right. Yeah, I did not play Forest Hills. The first year I played in the U.S. Open was in 1978.
Okay.
And that was the first year that they moved the U.S. Open from Forest Hills and Queens all the way to where it is today, at Flushing Meadows. And obviously Flushing Meadows has gone through quite a revolutionary change over the last 30 years. But
it has.
Yeah, I played my first year U.S. Open in 1978 at Flushing Meadows. Where they had the center court was. Oops, sorry, I gotta stop here. But yeah, it was the first year that I ended up in the United States was in 1978. So that was when I played my first one.
And plus, such rich history with Forest Hills and that stadium too. Even before they moved that all to Flushing Meadows too. I've had the privilege of seeing and going to the Fan Appreciation Week for the last 2 years at U.S. Open, which has been such a joy to be able to see those pros in just kind of more of a relaxed atmosphere too.
Right. No, it's the U.S. Open is the largest tennis tournament on the planet. Obviously, the most prestigious is Wimbledon. But, the 4 majors have their own sphere of influence. Obviously, the French Open is very much a European Grand Slam, and then Wimbledon is the granddaddy of them all because of the grass and the history of that place. But, just in sheer numbers of people visiting, I think the U.S. Open is beating them all. I think second probably would be the Australian Open in terms of people coming to visit for the 2 weeks. I think the U.S. Open is over 1.2 million or something like that. 1.2 million people coming for 2 weeks to watch the U.S. Open, and I think there's close to 1 million, if not 1 million, last year came to the Australian Open, which is the one that I won back in 1981-82. So very familiar with that tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And winning 81 and 82 in Australia, that's amazing in itself. And that's about the really, with me, I was living in Tulsa at the time in 81, 82. So, I was there and stuff, but I was still kind of like still playing in and around with the old guys at the court. And that's kind of how I started out in junior high school. With playing with the old guys at the tennis court, and they kind of took me under their wing. But But with you, I mean, when you were growing up, did you have, or what kind of started gearing you to saying, well, I could play this game. I have the hand-eye coordination and it seems pretty easy to me to do.
Yeah, it's a bit of a long story, but I grew up as a farm boy in a town called Pongola, and in South Africa, and it was in the province of Natal, Eastern Transvaal. Back in the day, they now have changed South Africa quite a bit, so it's not even the same names of that area anymore. It's now just KwaZulu-Natal. But back then, our farm bordered on a river that made it the border between Natal and Eastern Transvaal, which is the two provinces. But nevertheless, I was just a very active kid in school, primary school. I was a rugby player. Obviously, as a kid in South Africa, you really want to play rugby. It was the number one sport for kids. But tennis, I was introduced by my parents when I was like 5 years old. And there were only 2 cement courts at the sugar mill, which is run by the English-speaking South Africans. And I'm an Afrikaans kid, so I didn't really speak English till I was much older. But we ended up being introduced to tennis by my parents. They played at the two-court facility at the sugar mill. And, I showed some promise. By the time I was 8, I was hitting with adults and playing with them. And by the age of 10, I started to beat a lot of them. And so tennis was my hobby, but my first love was rugby because that's what kids did in those days. And so I ended up getting sort of discovered at age 11 by a very prominent tennis coach from Pretoria, which is the big city in South Africa next to Johannesburg. In fact, that's where all the parliamentary buildings are in Pretoria. And so I was recruited to go and get a scholarship to this very prestigious high school, an Afrikaans high school. And funny enough, basically almost across the street from it was the English version of that school. Because South Africa is very much Afrikaans and English, but nowadays everybody speaks English there. But Elon Musk went to the English school, apparently, many years after I was at the Afrikaans version of it. So that's kind of an interesting little tidbit. But anyway, so I went to high school. I was in boarding school in Pretoria. And by age 15, I was really playing with the first squad in the first team under 18s. I was 14 when I started playing against the big kids. And I was beaten a lot, but that made me tough. And I was competing at a very high level at a very young age. And so one day, the South African Open was one of the largest tournaments in the world at the time. In fact, the South African Open in Ellis Park, Johannesburg, was the 5th oldest tournament in the world back in the 70s. And so I was invited by another family who had their son in the boarding school with me to chaperone him and go and watch the South African Open semis and finals on a weekend. And so I went there, and honestly, that was the epiphany that said to me, no more rugby. I want to play tennis. The hair on my neck was standing up and my arms, and I was just like absolutely smitten with it. That was why I refocused to become a professional tennis player at age 15. But luckily, my coach from Pretoria was an English-speaking South African, and he had emigrated when I was 15. He went to Europe. He went to Austria to get a new job. And so I did not see him for 2 years, age 15 to 17. And at age 17, I told my parents I want to go and try and play tennis professionally. And they figured, well, if we don't buy him an airline ticket, he's going to hop a freighter and we'll never see him again. So they flew me out to Austria. So I stayed with my coach over there. And for 3 years, I traveled by train through Europe, played tournaments. I think I won a lot of Swiss Army knives in Switzerland.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Winning little tournaments and so forth. But so that was my kickoff to Europe, and it actually was a great stepping stone to learn to play the game on red clay.
Oh, yes.
And by 1978, February, I ended up coming to the United States. Everything, I was self-funded, and I was coaching tennis and stringing rackets and hitchhiking to tournaments for the 6 weeks that I was in Florida. I honestly felt I was going to go back to Europe because I had become sort of integrated in the Austrian tennis hierarchy, but I never left.
Yeah, you just kind of stayed here. Just kind of stayed here.
So America became home, and I became a U.S. citizen in 1982. And yeah, I've been playing all my life in Florida, and most of my life in Florida, and never left America. So yeah, so my family is here, and the wife here with 2 kids. Oh, right. And so yeah, it was an amazing journey to this point.
Oh, I'm sure it was, and with the upbringing and knowing and being in Europe like that, in Austria, and playing those tournaments, just got used to playing the red clay too. There's really a few clay courts that are red, one of those being Westside Tennis Club. But there's another one I know of that is in Mason, Texas, that a guy built his own red clay tennis court in his backyard. So, yeah.
Funny enough, I many years ago, one of my family members asked me if I wanted to do another business, and I actually did it because I wanted to help them. Yeah. And I started Kriek Courts, and we were building tennis courts in Florida. Most of them was obviously it was green clay. But anyway, what is funny now? Fast forward to there's a friend of mine in Alabama who has he's a mining guy, and one day he told me that at the John Newcomb tennis camp a couple of years ago. And his name is George Strayer, and George lives in Alabama somewhere, and he's into the mining world, and so he knows all of the dirt around Alabama. And one of the mines had this incredible red dirt, and he says, "Man, this looks just like the French Open." So he flew some clay in from Europe and had his scientists that are working with these mines look at the soil compositions, and his dirt was actually better water retention than the clay in the French or the Italian clay.
Oh my goodness!
So we have actually unbelievable red clay in Alabama, and he's got the rights for North America for this red clay. So I'm going to talk to him when we build our clubs and stuff to see if we want to do the club. So that's a bit of an interesting. And the second tidbit I want to tell you about is that I have inside information that the French Open, after the last French Open this past year, destroyed their courts right after the French Open was over.
Wow.
Because they are going to use clay from Italy because it's better than the French clay. So don't tell anybody.
That's a secret between us, huh?
so that's a secret now, that the Italian clay is better than the French clay. But they will never publicize it. But it's funny how this red clay thing is actually becoming kind of not a novelty, but I think it's getting much more traction to have red clay courts at clubs in America. Oh yeah,
I think it is too, and even here in Minneapolis, where I'm at, they actually have two green clay tennis courts that are public tennis courts that you don't have to belong to a club to go to. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So if you ever make it to Minneapolis, you know where to go, and go to the green clay tennis courts in Minneapolis, and you get to play free. You just got to wait for the open court, but you still get to play free. You don't have to pay for them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Now, obviously in Florida, the mindset is that most of the courts here are clay, and that's true because Florida was mostly a retirement situation, so therefore people wanted to play on clay.
Oh, sure.
Because it's easier on your knees and blah, 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 blah. But now there's a lot more hard courts as well. There's some indoor courts getting built. But, not so many red clay courts, but I think red clay is definitely going to become something that you need to look at. Sure.
Absolutely. I think so, for sure, that they'll still kind of start gaining in popularity, with some of the clubs out there, too, and especially in Florida, too, and, can filter forward, too. If you ever wanted to know also about experiencing also playing on grass in the United States, there actually is a single grass tennis court in Charles City, Iowa, that is right next to a cornfield, and it's a grass.
I read all about it, and there's a very fascinating story to see this. And maybe one of my bucket lists, if I'm going to drive across America one day with my kids, is to go and play on grass there.
Yeah.
A little shindig there would be fun.
Call me up and I'll meet you there.
Exactly. Now it's kind of funny because played Wimbledon until I was 57 years old, and we were playing the doubles champions, the over 45 doubles championships. Myself and Kevin Curran won Wimbledon 4 times in that category. But my son was a little tiny year and a half old, and he started to walk on the grass courts at Wimbledon. Funny enough.
Gosh.
So we have that. We have those videos as well.
Oh my goodness.
I played a lot on grass. Obviously, back in the day, Australian Open was on grass when I won it. But now we have Wimbledon. But it's sad that they don't have a tournament at Newport, Rhode Island anymore. They used to have the only grass court in America was at Newport. Yeah,
that's right.
So anyway, grass was one of my best surfaces, but not my favorite to play on, but it was the best one. I did the best on it. So
sure, absolutely.
It was always very interesting.
Yeah, I've actually had the privilege of seeing your doubles partner Kevin Curran play in an exhibition with Guillermo Vilas, one of the other guys that you played too. I saw them play in an exhibition, but prior to that kind of a full circle thing is when I saw Guillermo play with Kevin, and then after they were finished playing the celebrity doubles and they were walking off the court, I took a couple of pictures back when Vilas played Borg in 1976 at WCT in Dallas. And so I got a couple of pictures of Vilas hitting the ball and brought him to them. Back then you could just walk to the court and talk to him and all that, and nobody would bother you. But I took the pictures down and put them right in front of Guillermo, and I said, I took these of you in Dallas. And he looked at me, looked at the pictures, gave a big smile, signed them right away. So I have those signed by Guillermo Vilas. So that was a fun experience.
Now I'm very familiar with the WCT finals in Dallas because I made it 4 years in a row. And, Lamar Hunt was an incredible tennis fan.
Oh, he was.
And probably the gentleman who has put in so much effort and put in so much money back in the early 80s into that WCT tour. That was at one time run by the South African former promoter of the South African Open, Owen Williams, who is now in his 90s living in Southampton. But Owen was very close to Lamar Hunt and helped him establish that tour within the tour. Honestly feel like Lamar Hunt will never get the accolades that he deserves for what he did for tennis professionally on the men's side back in the 80s up till 1985, 86, 87, maybe something like that. But there's a lot of politics in sports back in the day there. But Lamar was an amazing guy, spent a lot of money, and Lendl played every one of their tournaments. I think he made more money in 82 than he did in 87 playing those WCT tournaments. But Lamar was an amazing gentleman, amazing man, very big fan of tennis.
Oh yeah, and then plus the Moody Coliseum was such a kind of a good, large but small venue that you could see very well from whatever seat you were sitting at. Also,
well, we were playing. I think the hotel was very close to. It was at Reunion Arena.
Yeah,
wasn't that the facility?
I think it was Reunion or Moody Coliseum, somewhere in that, like that.
Yeah, I think it was Reunion, but I have a funny story about Reunion too, because the first year that I guess it was just built, and so I made the finals, and I'm playing the tournament, and it's the last 8 guys in the WCT tour that we had around the world, and the top 8 performers playing in the WCT finals in Dallas. So, so I forgot who it was I was supposed to play. I think it was Brad Gilbert or something, first round. And, we warm up and everything. The place is packed, and there's a lot of cowboy hats in the stadium, you know. And the next thing, I won the toss, and so I served the ball. It goes in the box, and everybody starts screaming and yelling, and the cowboy hats get thrown on the tennis court, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And I was completely confused because this has never happened to me where the spectators go berserk. And I was like, what the hell? It was because I opened Reunion Arena for the first athletic sport venue in Dallas, and whatever. I was the guy that won the toss. So when I served, they just went kapooey and they went nuts. Well done, you opened the facility. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, over just a serve that went in.
One of the funniest experiences ever.
Yeah, and over just a serve that went in. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is amazing.
I don't know what happened.
Oh my gosh, that is totally amazing with itself. But yeah, with all you YouTubers out there, just be sure and watch my YouTube tennis channel, Tennis Volley Talk. Also, if you like what I'm doing with these interviews and over the phone, I really do like doing them. And also later on, you YouTubers, you'll hear the Racket of the Week coming up, kind of a little commemoration somewhat of what you've been doing of the last few years over with the Newcomb Ranch too. So kind of the Racket of the Week you'll kind of like, I think. But with that too, everybody take a look. If you want to take a look at the racket, go to the YouTube channel, Tennis Volley Talk. But with that, you yourself and like me, were a one-handed backhand. I've never had a two-hander. I could never hit a two-hander to save my life. In all through my years, I've always been a one-hander. Did you always have the one-hander, or just felt more natural for you, and you got more reach that way too?
Yeah, no, as a kid, I grew up playing with wood rackets. So by the time I was 10, I was playing with adult rackets. Now you can imagine how heavy an adult wood racket was, a Dunlop Max Fly or a Slazenger or something.
Yeah.
But always, I was always sort of taught how Rosewall slices the ball, and the head of the HR at the sugar mill was a very big tennis fan, and he would go to Johannesburg and all over the place. They had tournaments in Durban where the top Aussies guys would come and do exhibitions. So, back in the 60s and 70s, there were a lot of tennis events happening in South Africa. It was the hotbed of tennis. In fact, what people don't realize is, besides the fact that the South African Open was the 5th oldest tournament in the world, back in the mid to late 60s, there was big decisions to be made where the 4th Grand Slam was going to happen. It was between South Africa and Australia.
Oh my gosh!
Obviously, Australia. It's in my friend Owen Williams, who was running the South African. It was his book. He wrote about it in the book, and it was called Ahead of Its Time.
Oh my goodness!
Ahead of the Game. He wrote a book called Ahead of the Game, and he was a brilliant marketeer for professional tennis. And Owen Williams can be truly anointed as the grandfather or the granddaddy of the box seat concept and the parties and the champagne nights and all that stuff, because he's the one that started it at the South African Open tennis tournament back in the 60s.
Oh, sure.
And he built the South African Open to where more people came to watch the South African Open in numbers for the week than Wimbledon in its totality.
Oh my
back
goodness.
In the day.
That is amazing in itself.
And he came up with the champagne parties and tents and the box seat, and he sold it separately.
Oh, yeah.
He was just a very smart, ahead of his game entrepreneur in the world of tennis and professional tennis. Obviously knew Rod Laver and all those guys. He himself was a professional tennis player, but he branched into business, and then somehow he got hold of the rights to run that tournament in Johannesburg. But at that time, when he was so successful, guess what? The U.S. Open hired him to come and run the Forest Hills tournament for a number of years. And he did it very successfully. And then he got hired by Lamar Hunt to run WCT. See how connected it is?
Oh, yeah. It's all connected that way. It's amazing in itself.
So a very interesting story about the history of the South African Open. Almost became the 4th Grand Slam, but obviously they did the right choice by giving it to Australia.
Oh, gosh.
But funny enough, Australian Open was run now for many years by Craig Tiley, who's a South African, and South African-born alumni from Stellenbosch University. But it looks like he is maybe looking at becoming the CEO of the USTA. Oh,
that's going to be amazing in itself, too, with having that.
You may have read about it, but anyway. But, it's another story.
Yeah, with your playing with my playing and stuff, I've just played just generally since I was junior high school, but I kind of started late in life, and so whatever tennis I picked up, I just kind of hit me, and I played for over 50 years with tennis now. But with the opportunity to be able to take pictures and everything, I've had the pictures that I've taken of Connors and McEnroe and actually Edberg and Vilas too. Those guys that you have beat, but those guys have such different dynamics with all of those guys. How with your playing style did you just kind of adapt to what their style was when you played them? Because all of them were such diverse players in their own way to play.
Yeah, I think tennis was quite a bit different back in the day because I think my generation was sort of the last of the Mohicans in the sense that, by the time I was through maybe 2/3 of my career, we just started 2/3 of my career through with graphite rackets, which is still being played with today. So I started with wood rackets as a junior. I played on the tour a little bit with wood rackets till '82. And then I got my own racket with my own name on it from Rossignol, which is a French company, and they were building metal rackets. So I went from wood to metal to composites, which is foam plus plastics and aluminum, and then the fourth one was the fully developed graphite racket. So I guess my generation of the mid '80s to late '80s, early '90s were the last ones that have played with 4 different types of rackets. So I think because of the performance of these rackets and string technology getting better, there was a big morph towards the big hitters and the big strong guys serving big. And nowadays you see that tennis is really a power game. I mean, they make a tennis court look like a ping pong table nowadays.
I know they do.
Because of the technology and the athleticism of the players now, I mean, everybody that is 6'6" and taller have massive serves, and they rely on it, and they're very good athletes now as well. Yeah. So the tennis has gotten, I wouldn't say necessarily better, because we thought it was great in the '80s because there's so many diverse players. Yes. But nowadays it looks like people are kind of looking the same, but hey, tennis has moved on. We're dinosaurs compared to what the kids are doing now.
Oh, absolutely. And it's amazing with the top 2, Alcaraz and Sinner, and also the third one still kind of hanging in there of Djokovic now. Still, he can still get up into the semis pretty much all the time with the tournaments he's been in.
He is by far the greatest of all time in my book. I mean, there's people that love Federer, there's people that love Djokovic, there's people that love Nadal, but I think in terms of just pure records and he played the best players in the world for the last 2 decades, and he's still number one in terms of Masters 1000s won, how many Grand Slams were won, head to head he's number one. Yes. I mean, unbelievable. So the guy is definitely the ultimate professional in terms of how he maintained his body. And he's turning 39 years old, and he's still challenging these guys at the very top. It's absolutely incredible.
It is amazing to actually see him play like he does, and then with now the top 2 now, I don't know who might step in there, with Sinner and Alcaraz, but who do you think could be maybe the third one, like it was with Nadal and Federer and Djokovic?
Yeah. It's you hope that the tennis moves on, and we have very exciting players, very different styles in the sense. From Sinner to Alcaraz, you want to see that competition at the very top from North and the South Pole, if you will, the good, the bad, or whatever. And so, both these kids are really very respectable on the court. I mean, especially Sinner. He's very composed, fantastic player, but Alcaraz can raise his level at any time he wants. Similar to what a Djokovic does, but maybe even more spectacularly in a way.
I know.
So it's very interesting to watch them play. But yeah, I mean, tennis is just going to get bigger and better. I think technology is going to continue to move the game forward. You're going to have, maybe you can get a tablet when you walk into the stadium, and it could be a watch or something, and it could be anything, and then you're going to see what the temperature of their feet are, or is the guy at the changeover tightening his string job or lessening the string because it's getting heavier and it's getting cloudy and the ball is going to travel slower. I mean, there's all these types of things that are going to come. Technology is already there, but I think it's just going to leapfrog more and more into different areas.
Absolutely, it will leap into different areas, and now with the women too. Now you got the Sabalenka, and now you have Rybakina. Now that has actually then won the big season finale over Sabalenka in winning such a big purse. But boy, she has a cool, calm, collective game with her of just pure, like, not letting you know her emotions at all, but yet once she's healthy, she has really turned into a good player to win that season-ending finale.
No, I always thought. I mean, I saw Rebecca win Wimbledon that time, the first time that she won it, and she didn't know that the match was over. I think she was so focused on that point that she completely forgot she had won, because she stood there sort of quietly at the baseline, walking around.
Yeah.
And then she realized she won, and she had to go up and shake hands. It was funny.
Oh.
One of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, completely checked out. She didn't know what the score was.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, I always thought that she was an unbelievable talent. Hit the ball really hard, moves well, but she doesn't look like she's super fast, but she reads the ball and the play so well that she doesn't have to look fast. You know, she moves before the person hits the ball, so she knows. But yeah, I thought she was a great talent. Obviously, Sabalenka is just a hell of an athlete.
Oh, yeah.
Super strong, murders the ball.
Oh, she does.
I mean, but you know, now you have this Anisimova from the US.
Yes.
Who's the little Russian, and I mean, she hits her backhand harder than a man.
Oh, yes. Oh,
and,
she
hits harder than Sinner and Alcaraz.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
And it's going, okay, just give me the backhand. I'll take the backhand anytime you want to give it to me, you know. So
they were averaging 74 miles an hour, which is still pretty hard.
Yeah.
But she was murdering the ball at 77 miles an hour.
Yes.
During the last U.S. Open. I mean, that was the funniest thing to see those stats. I was like, these guys better up their game, man.
Oh, gosh. And it was. I mean, it's so amazing to see that. And I've had the opportunity to see Sabalenka hit the ball at the the fan appreciation in Arthur Ashe, and it was just like amazing seeing her hit the ball. And this last year, I did go to the one session of the day session of the first. And here I am walking around to the side courts, and it's really so amazing getting the feel for that during regular play at the U.S. Open, because not only are they having everything at the main stadium, Ashe, and then the Louis Armstrong Stadium, the side courts. I decide to go walking past the side court, and I'm seeing Jensen Brixby play, and it's like there's this constant back and forth, and people just all around the court, and they're just kind of playing, with all this commotion going on. And I turn around, and no other but than I see is Pam Shriver getting ready to do a commentary and stuff. And right before she left, I got a picture of me and her with my camera. So I got a picture with Pam Shriver.
Good.
So
yeah, I remember Pam is about the same age I was, and I traveled around with her. Back in the day, in the 80s, we were not so much with the girls. The girls were always playing, obviously, the Grand Slams. We could see the girls, but they were, at that time, not a real close working relationships between the WTA and the ATP, because they didn't play any other tournaments together except the four majors. But now, obviously, all of the Masters 1000s, I believe, the women play with the men as well. So it's become much more cohesive.
Oh, it has. It has been very, and then plus that kind of the little lull break between, the ending of the season and then going into the Australian Open before you get into the Adelaide and all those tournaments. I like the fact that they come up with all these little fun tournaments that you can see their personalities shine through. And it's not a very serious tournament, but it is a tournament in a way. But it's still nice to see their personalities and smiling and stuff like that with those little in-between tournaments before the big one starts with the Australian Open.
Yeah. No, there's people kind of, I say some of the promoters that are non-big promoters, they love these little events around the U.S. Open, around the French, around the Wimbledons. I remember going and playing in tournaments before Wimbledon at Bristol, or play some small tournaments in Manchester, or exhibitions in different parts of England. So it's always the case with the Grand Slams. It's a captive audience, and people want to practice, and the weather is not always perfect in England, so you want to find a place to at least besides Wimbledon that you can go and play somewhere, So, and that's why grass courts always grew in Holland as well as in Germany. So you have big grass court tournaments now.
Oh, sure.
In Europe, outside of London.
Oh, yeah, outside of there and going to those places to play. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, I was listening to Tony Trabert talk on the radio once, okay? And being the tennis player that he was talking to a baseball manager one time. And so the manager asked him, he goes, "Where are you off to, Tony?" And he goes, "Well, let's see, my first stop is going to be the French Open. And then after that, it's going to be Wimbledon. And then probably after that, it'll be to back to France and doing a few other tournaments over in Europe." So the baseball manager goes, "Wait a minute. My next 2-3 stops are Cincinnati, New York, and Minnesota. So what? There's something wrong with that picture."
Yeah. No, we were traveling like crazy in the 80s too. I mean,
yeah.
But the big difference between those days and today is that the money in terms of what the top players make, they can afford to fly private. We had to fly commercial.
Yeah.
In economy to Australia. I mean, I would sleep in 747s underneath people's chairs, and I'm so dead tired that I was sleeping at their feet. I mean, just pretty disgusting stuff. But
gosh.
we did whatever we could to find to sleep.
Sure.
Flat down. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So we were flying economy. That 36 hours in an economy plane is not funny.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's great. That can be pretty tiring in itself too,
exactly.
with doing that. But yeah, I've had the opportunity, and the reason why I do this is to get people like you and trying to, and if you got my number, you come across other guys out there on the tour, be sure and talk to them, tell them about tennis volley, tennis volley talk and everything, so I can kind of grow my channel and getting interviews like this, because of the fact that it's such a grassroots of learning about your guys' stories and how you grew up and getting into it and keeping your legacy alive within the younger generation out there that may not know you guys. And I do, because I grew up with you guys.
Yeah, no, I certainly will. No, I mean, when you're young and you're in your 20s and you get on the tour, it's like, you think you're going to play forever.
Yeah.
But you don't. And so now that we are all retired tennis players, except, McEnroe is retired from playing, but he's still very active, obviously, as a commentator. I never got into the commentating world. I became more of a coaching guy for academy kids and stuff like that. So I went a different direction. But no, it's, it's 20, 25 years sounds like a very long time, but in the life of a professional tennis player, it's a very short sliver of your life. And, by age 40, it's over, basically.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to play at least 9 more years on the Senior Champions Tour with Connors, Borg, McEnroe, so travel the world with them again. It's like phase 2.
Yeah.
But nowadays, the Champions Tour is completely a different animal than it used to be.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And it's completely changed. But I really enjoyed to play with Connors and them. We played in Moscow. We played in Saudi Arabia. We never played there on the ATP Tour. Not even the ATP Tour had tournaments back there.
Oh my gosh!
Then. So we were playing in places that we never played professionally before. So when we played on the Champions Tour, we saw some places that were brand new venues.
Oh my gosh!
But had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, when you're young, you think you're going to play forever, but when you're in your 50s and 60s and you look back, you go, "Wow, that time went by so fast."
Oh, it did. And that's the reason why I do this. It's such a grassroots of having your guys' story out there too, still, of you guys, and then keeping your legacy alive through what you've done and what you're still doing within tennis too. I mean, like Dick Stockton that I just did. I did an interview with. I got Brian Gottfried too, so that was a good get, which I really thoroughly enjoyed that interview too. And then Dick Stockton, he still plays. He runs clinics. He runs clinics in a different way, but he does a charity work, and it's called Boots on the Court, meaning he does for military families out there and all the bases, gives free tennis lessons to everybody for a weekend.
Right.
So, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, no, I knew he's doing that, and he's been asking me to do some of that stuff with him in the past. Unfortunately, I've been just impossible to do it, but He's an interesting guy, and he's a very good patriot. So great guy. I like Dick a lot, and I played doubles with him a few times as well back in the day. With
he had a good volley.
Champions Tour, we did so well. He was an incredible doubles player.
Oh, he was.
But, yeah, very good.
But
so.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's such a good. I had pictures of him whenever I was watching back in Tulsa. They had the BOK, Bank of Oklahoma tennis tournament, and he was in it a few times. And I got a few pictures of him with it whenever with him hitting and playing that. And he ended up winning it in '83, and he beat Roscoe Tanner, of all people, and stuff. Yeah. So that was so fun to be able to talk to him about all of that. But with this, it's kind of I wish I had the Rosenau racket, but I don't. But I do have, kind of in commemoration of John Newcomb too, is the Rawlings racket. The Rawlings, and it's endorsed by, of course, John Newcomb, of course, that has the tennis ranch there in New Braunfels, Texas, and it's called the Court King, is what it is, and actually the racket by Rawlings was actually started in St. Louis, Missouri, by two brothers in 1887, of all things. And it was by two brothers, George and Alfred Rawlings, and it was their catalog advertisement was really advertised as fishing tackle, guns, baseball, football, golf, and polo equipment. Tennis and general athletics goods was also, kind of presented in their catalog with that, but. They did make the tennis rackets, of course, the Rawlings tennis racket that then was endorsed. And they did the Rawlings tennis balls, too, that was then endorsed by John Newcomb. And with that, with the co-founding, especially the company's core identity was really in with the baseball and in the football, American football, but they did make the tennis rackets for a brief time with John Newcomb, then endorsing this Rawlings racket. It's still a pretty good racket. It's white on the bottom part of the throat here, and it's really kind of it's a gold, and it says Rawlings on it and Court King, and then John Newcomb has his autograph on it too. Still a pretty good racket. You could probably hit very lightly with it, but still get the ball over the net too. So kind of a little bit of history there of the Rawlings racket there for you too. So kind of an interesting thing that you may not have known about Rawlings, but still kind of a nice little racket to take a look at too. And of course, then also with that too, being endorsed by John Newcomb, which was really actually one of the great Australian tennis players out there too. Two-time winner of the Australian Open, like you were, but it was 73 and 75 a little earlier. But then three-time winner of Wimbledon, and then the U.S. Open twice. And then Newcomb and Laver, of all things, were one of the two only players to win both U.S. Open and Wimbledon in men's singles as both amateur and professional too. So that's kind of an interesting thing behind that too. And then of course, then with you being at the John Newcomb Ranch yourself, and kind of, that he has a get together, I hear, pretty much for all the guys out there to come and kind of have a good time, there when he's in the US also.
Yeah, no, he spends a lot of time obviously in south of Sydney. He's got a farm there in Australia, but he does come twice a year. Or extended time to the US because he's still got the tennis ranch in Texas. But yeah, Nuke and I are pretty good buds. I mean, he invites me to do this fantasy camp for him with a whole bunch of other players. So we have a lot of fun with it. A lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. So, like I said, it's just so wonderful being able to actually have the opportunity and having you give the time you have to try to grow my podcast. And like I said, you have my number, and if you can, whoever you can get a hold of and float my number to them, so I can keep growing my podcast with interviews like this and keeping the legacy alive for you guys. And in a sense, having that grassroots of still letting people know that this all existed back then, instead of like all the fancy hitting and all the fancy rackets too. Just keeping the legacy alive for you guys, and then getting my number out there so they can call me and so I can do more interviews like this, which is absolutely been the world of fun for me to do, and getting a hold of you guys like I did and have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I'll let the boys know that I did it with you and give them your phone number, and I'm sure they will reach out. This is always a good thing for the old guys to talk a little bit about life, where they had it on a tour, and there's a lot of stories out there that probably are not ever told. But it is good to know some of this stuff. I love stories, and I love pretty interesting historical things that happened, but so I'll definitely let the people know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then I encourage you to watch the podcast, Tennis Volley Talk, and also with everybody out there, you YouTubers, and then you podcasters out there, you heard the racket, so if you want to take a look at it, go to Tennis Volley Talk. And then when you look at the podcast, you're going to see a portion of my tennis racket collection in the background when you're looking at it. So,
perfect.
So it'll be fun. And what I'll do is I don't know if I sent you one of my tennis cards or not, but if not, I will. And then that way it makes it easier.
Just text me your contact information and everything on this number that you called me on. So I'll put it in my contact list, and then it's easy to forward it to guys.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I'll send a picture of my card to you too. And Johan, such a pleasure having you on my tennis podcast today. And thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck. 2026. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and look forward to maybe run into you somewhere along the line. Maybe it'll be in Iowa. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Give me a call when you're coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Minnesota is a little bit cold for me this time of year, but maybe in the summer.
That's absolutely true.
Super. All right, Brian, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much again, Johan.
Have a good day.
You too.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There again, that was Johan Kriek. That was such a wonderful interview with him. So fun finding out more about his legacy and what he did within the tennis realm when he was growing up, and having those guys that he played tennis with. And I just got to make sure I can try to keep this going with the tennis interviews with other pros, and we'll see how that can work, and take it from there. But if anybody's still playing outside, keep on doing it. And I'm heading inside. I had a little bit, like I said, a little injury, but my elbow's getting better. So I was out and hit the other day, and it felt okay. Forehand was okay, but the serve and backhand, it's a little iffy. I can feel the weakness a little bit, but I'll get back to it. So everybody out there, thank you. And everybody have a great day out there. And thank you again for listening to Tennis Volley Talk. That was it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.